I was a broke Ugandan college student. My family lived in poverty. One day I met a billionaire South African arms dealer. He is the man everyone fear. But I fell in love, and we are getting married. This is part 4. If you're new here, I recommend starting the story from the beginning. I woke up before my alarm. Birds outside. Voices in the corridor. Someone dragging a chair like they always do in the mornings. Nothing unusual. I lay there staring at the ceiling and told myself it was done. That whatever that first meeting was, it was just curiosity. Nothing more. I repeated it in my head because the first time didn't feel strong enough. Sunlight was already cutting through the curtain and landing on my desk. Books stacked neatly. Notes spread out the way I'd left them. My small prayer corner still untouched from the night before. Everything looked the same, and that helped. It made it easier to believe I was still in control. Why am I even thinking about him? I told myself to focus. Exams were close. I got up, felt the cold floor under my feet, washed my face, brushed my teeth. I looked tired in the mirror, but not in a dramatic way, just normal student tired. I dressed without thinking too much. Jeans, a top I trust because it never causes problems. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Campus was already loud when I stepped outside. Students greeting each other, people rushing, vendors calling out prices like they were competing with each other. Mandazi, tea, eggs, the usual smells. I walked with my bag tight against my shoulder, greeting people automatically. Someone made a joke behind me, and I laughed without really thinking about it. My phone buzzed. A group chat complaining about a lecturer. I sent a laughing emoji and slipped the phone back into my bag. That's when my mind drifted. Just for a second. His face came up. Not clearly, just the idea of him. My chest tightened slightly. Not excitement exactly. More like awareness. I slowed down, then corrected myself. Stop it. You're imagining things. In the lecture hall, I took my usual seat, pulled out my notebook, and started writing. The lecturer talked. I underlined things I'd probably have to reread later. Everything was normal. Too normal. At lunch, I stopped by the small food place near faculty. Bowl of rice. Chapati if the money allowed. I opened my wallet and counted carefully. Notes first. Coins after. I always count twice. Habit. I sat on a plastic chair and ate slowly, watching people around me. 2 girls arguing quietly. A couple sharing fries like it meant something. A guy across the place looked up, and for half a second my mind tried to connect him to someone else. I shut it down immediately. Focus on food. Focus on money. Later, walking to another class, I ran into Sarah. We talked about coursework, about how tired we were, about nothing important. She said something funny, and I laughed properly this time. My phone buzzed again. A classmate asking about notes. I saw the message but didn't open it immediately. I don't know why. As we parted ways, the thought came back quietly. He won't be in my life. This isn't a thing. Don't make it one. Between classes, I sat under the big tree near the library. Notebook open, pen in hand. Wind moved the leaves above me. Cars hooted faintly from the road. I tried to read, but my mind wouldn't stay still. I remembered something small. His smile. Nothing dramatic, just easy. My heart picked up slightly. I closed the notebook. It was nothing. So why did it feel like this again? The message came when I was almost done getting ready for bed. I was already in shorts, sitting on my bed scrolling, half listening to someone's music through the wall. It was Sarah. She said there was a small thing happening near the airport. A friend of a friend. Nothing big. Just coffee. Chilling. Catching up. She asked if I wanted to come. I stared at the message for a bit. My first instinct was no. I was tired. It was already evening. I told myself I didn't feel like small talk. I even typed maybe another day and then erased it. I didn't want it to sound like I was avoiding people. I didn't want it to look like I was too eager either. In my head, I told myself it was just a normal outing. People do this all the time. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a thought slipped in. Just briefly. What if he's there? I dismissed it immediately. Why would he be there? That was reaching. I told myself to relax. I replied with something casual. Yeah, I can come. No emoji. Nothing extra. Just that. I stood up and opened my wardrobe. At first, I picked the safest thing I own. Jeans that always work. A simple top. Nothing loud. Nothing that asks questions. I put it on and stood in front of the mirror. It was fine. Normal. I could leave like that. Then I sat back on the bed and changed again. The second top was still simple, just softer. I told myself it was for comfort, not because I wanted to look good. I adjusted it, smoothed it down, checked the mirror again. My hair had fallen the way it wanted to fall. I considered tying it back, then stopped. This is fine. I'm not trying too hard, I'm just going out. I stopped thinking about it before I could change a third time. Grabbed my bag, checked transport money, locked the door. The ride towards the airport area was quiet. The road lights passed by steadily. I watched people through the window and let my mind settle. I kept reminding myself there were no expectations. Just coffee, just friends. A normal evening. The cafe wasn't loud when we arrived. Warm lights, soft music playing low enough that you could still hear people talking. The kind of place where you can sit for hours without being rushed. It smelled like coffee and something sweet baking in the back. Not crowded, but not empty either. Groups scattered around, leaning into conversations. As I stepped inside, I felt it before I saw anything. My chest tightened slightly. No reason. Just a shift. Like my body had noticed something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. I scanned the room casually. I told myself I wasn't looking for anyone in particular, just checking where to sit, just taking in the space. My heart started beating a little faster, and I had to tell myself to breathe normally. This is ridiculous. It's just a cafe. Then I saw him. He was standing near the counter, turned slightly to the side, talking to someone. He was smiling, not big, just relaxed. His hands moved as he spoke, calm, unhurried. Something about the way he stood made everything else fade a bit. My stomach flipped, and my breath caught for half a second before I could stop it. No, it's nothing. He's just here, that's all. I stood there longer than I meant to, pretending to check my phone. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears. I told myself to move, to act normal, to not make this a thing. I reminded myself I didn't even know what this was supposed to be. Then he turned. Not dramatically. Just enough. His eyes landed on me and paused. Just a beat longer than necessary. His expression shifted slightly, like recognition settling in. He didn't rush. He didn't wave. Just a small pause, then the faintest smile. Warmth spread through my chest before I could control it. He saw me, and for some reason, that mattered more than I expected. I adjusted my bag on my shoulder without realizing it, smoothed my top, pulled myself together. I reminded myself again, casual. This is just an evening. Don't overthink it. I walked further into the cafe toward the others, aware of everything at once. The noise, the lights, the space between us shrinking. My heart was beating faster now, steady but loud. I had a strange feeling sitting low in my chest. This night might matter more than I want it to. He didn't rush me. That's what got me. He waited until there was a natural opening, then came closer like it was the most normal thing in the world. When he said hi, it was soft, simple. Hey, it's good to see you. His hand hovered before we touched, like he was checking the air first. We shook hands, light, brief, but his eyes stayed on mine. Too steady. My chest felt tight in a way that didn't hurt, just surprised me. I answered him normally. I think. My voice sounded like mine, which almost annoyed me because inside I was anything but normal. Before we could say more, someone I knew jumped in, all smiles and energy, and did introductions like we'd never met. Said our names again. Said, nice to meet you again. I played along. So did he. We both smiled politely, like strangers. It felt like a private joke we weren't allowed to laugh at. I remember thinking how strange it was that saying nice to meet you could feel intimate, like we were protecting something by not correcting anyone. As we talked, small things started to stand out. He remembered my course, mentioned my exams without me bringing them up, asked how that one unit was going. The hard one. I hadn't told many people about that. He noticed when I shifted my bag from one shoulder to the other, when I tucked my hair back without thinking. He listened without cutting in, without looking around for someone more interesting. It made me aware of myself in a new way. Not self-conscious, just seen. We ended up standing closer than we needed to. Our voices dropped without planning it. At some point, his elbow brushed mine. Not dramatic. Just a light touch that stayed a second longer than an accident should. I didn't move away. I noticed the warmth and let it sit there. Part of me wondered if anyone was watching. Another part didn't care. My attention kept drifting back to him, like a magnet I didn't want to name. There was a pause in the conversation. One of those quiet gaps that usually make me nervous. This one didn't. We looked at each other, just briefly. I felt something settle and stir at the same time. I asked myself why this felt important, why my body was reacting before my mind gave permission. I didn't say anything about it. I smiled. He smiled back, calm as ever. And I knew, quietly, that this was no longer just a coincidence. Something had already shifted, and we hadn't even tried. We ended up getting drinks like normal people. Coffee for him. Tea for me. I remember thinking I should relax, that this was just sitting down, just noise and cups and tables. I told myself not to read meaning into it. He pulled a chair out slightly, not exaggerated, just enough to notice. Sat opposite me but angled closer, like we were already mid-conversation. His phone stayed face down on the table. Mine too, without thinking about it. He watched me the way people do when they're actually listening, not waiting for their turn to speak. We started with light things. How the place was busier than usual. How the road near the airport was a mess these days. I heard myself talking about lectures, about deadlines piling up, about how one assignment refused to make sense no matter how many times I read it. Halfway through, I realized I don't usually talk like this. Not in detail. I usually joke it away. With him, the words just came out, not heavy, just honest. He nodded, asked small questions, remembered which unit I'd complained about last time, leaned forward a little, elbows resting easy. It made me feel like what I was saying mattered. Money came up the way it always does for students, transport costs, choosing between eating properly and saving for printing notes. I laughed it off, said it casually, but inside I felt that small sting of embarrassment. He didn't react the way people sometimes do. No pity face, no advice, just understanding. Like it was normal, because it is. When our hands reached for the napkin holder at the same time, our fingers brushed. We both paused. Neither of us pulled away immediately. It wasn't dramatic, just warm. I noticed it. He noticed it. Then we moved on like adults who knew what just happened. There were moments where we didn't talk. The silence didn't rush me. It sat there calmly between us. The cafe noise faded in and out, cups clinking, someone laughing too loudly in the corner, the soft hum of conversation. I became aware of how he smelled, clean and faint, nothing overpowering, how relaxed his shoulders were, how safe the quiet felt. I thought about how usually I'm the one filling gaps, nervous about being boring. Here, I didn't need to. At some point, we were closer than before. I couldn't even remember when it happened. Our chairs hadn't moved much, but our bodies had leaned in. Voices lower, heads tilted slightly. My heart was beating faster, and I was very aware of it. I wondered briefly if anyone was watching us and seeing what I was starting to feel. Our hands brushed again, this time staying a second longer. He didn't move away. He didn't move closer either. He waited. That waiting did something to me. I said something I don't usually say out loud, about pressure, about feeling like I always had to get things right, about not wanting to disappoint people who weren't even in the room. I almost stopped myself halfway through, but he didn't interrupt, just listened. Eyes steady, head slightly tilted, like he was holding the space carefully. He didn't try to fix it, didn't say it would be okay, just nodded, quietly there. His hand rested near mine on the table, not touching, but close enough to feel intentional. I glanced around once, suddenly aware of the room again, other people talking, laughing, living their lives. I thought about how we must look. Two people leaning in, comfortable, like this wasn't our first night talking like this, like there was history or the start of it. He didn't change when I looked away. Still calm, still close, still not asking for more than I was giving. We laughed after that. A real laugh, about something small, I don't even remember what. It surprised me how easy it felt. The kind of laughter that makes your shoulders drop. When it faded, we were a little closer again, hands brushing without apology. I felt warm, seen, slightly scared by how normal it all felt. As the conversation slowed, I noticed the attachment forming quietly. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a sense of comfort that hadn't been there before. I didn't name it. I didn't ask what it meant. I just sat with it, aware that something gentle had shifted, and that pretending otherwise would be a lie. He reached for the bowl of ground nuts between us at the same time I did. It wasn't planned, just normal timing. Our fingers touched, lightly at first, then settled. like neither of us had instructions on what to do next. I noticed the warmth immediately. Not dramatic, just there. Present. I didn't pull away. I told myself it was nothing, just accidental. But my heart sped up anyway, like my body had made a different decision before my brain could catch up. Why didn't I move? I stayed still, pretending I hadn't noticed how aware I suddenly was of my own hand. He shifted slightly, not rushing. Our fingers separated slowly, like it wasn't urgent to correct it. I caught a faint, clean smell on him, probably soap, maybe cologne, nothing loud. It felt oddly personal for such a small thing. I laughed it off in my head, told myself to relax. But the feeling lingered, like a low hum under everything else we were saying. We shared the snacks without talking about it. He held out a piece of cake from his plate, just casually, like that's what people do. I hesitated for half a second, then leaned in and took a bite. It felt private in a way I couldn't explain, even though people were literally sitting all around us. I could hear chairs scraping, cups clinking, someone arguing softly on the phone nearby. Still, it felt like we were in our own small bubble. I offered him a sip of my juice and watched him take it without making a joke. Our hands brushed again when I passed the glass. My fingers tingled, and I hated how much I liked that. I kept thinking, why does this matter so much? It's just food, just a drink. But my body didn't care about logic. I was suddenly very aware of how close we were sitting, how our knees were almost touching, how easy it would be for them to actually touch if either of us moved an inch. The noise around us faded in and out. I focused on him without trying to. Then he said something stupid. Not embarrassing stupid, just unexpectedly funny. I laughed properly, not the small polite laugh I give people. This one came from my chest, surprised even me. I leaned back a bit, covering my mouth, still laughing. And when I looked at him, he was just watching. Not laughing loud, just smiling quietly, eyes on me, like he was enjoying the moment more than the joke. I hadn't laughed like that in a while. I felt lighter, like something unclenched inside me. I noticed a couple of people glance our way. I didn't care. I shrugged it off in my head and leaned back in without thinking. The laughter faded, but the warmth stayed. It felt easy. Too easy. He shifted closer, not touching, just enough that I felt his presence more clearly. Then he asked, quietly, if I was okay sitting there, if I was comfortable. The question surprised me, not because it was big, but because he asked at all. I didn't have to guess what he wanted. I nodded and said I was fine, and I meant it. That mattered more to me than I expected. We sat like that for a bit, not rushing anything. Then he glanced around once and leaned in slightly. Asked if I wanted to go somewhere quieter. He didn't assume. Didn't stand up. Just asked. My stomach did that small flip it does when something important is about to happen. I knew I could say no. I felt that clearly. The choice was right there in front of me. For a moment, everything flashed through my mind. Home. School. What people would say if they saw us. Who I thought I was supposed to be. I breathed in slowly. It was just a choice. I could stop anytime. I wasn't being pulled. I wanted this, carefully. I nodded before I could overthink it. We stood up together, our shoulders brushed. Our hands touched again, briefly, like a quiet confirmation. He smiled. I smiled back. Nothing dramatic happened. Nothing was said. But something had shifted. And as we walked, close but not touching, I knew this wasn't just a casual meeting anymore. We settled into a quieter corner of the lounge, a small sofa pushed against the wall. The hum of voices and clinking cups distant enough that it almost felt private. I noticed how natural it was, like sitting here didn't carry any pressure at all. But my chest disagreed. My heart was aware. My hands felt warmer. My shoulders slightly tense, like they remembered how nervous I had been earlier, but were trying to convince me otherwise. The soft fabric under my palms grounded me somehow. A faint smell of coffee mixed with evening air drifting through the open window. I kept glancing at him, aware of how close we were, without any real plan. Without any rush. As I reached for my bag to adjust it, our hands brushed again. Lightly. Almost nothing, but long enough that I felt it. I didn't pull away. My fingers lingered just a little, resting on his hand in a way that wasn't accidental, though I hadn't decided to do it consciously either. The warmth spread from my palm, familiar and safe. I caught a faint scent of him again, clean, subtle, like it had been waiting for me to notice. I realized, with a small jolt, that I was choosing to stay close. This was my decision. My consent. My little anchor in the quiet between us. We started talking again, softer this time. Words slowed, even when the conversation was casual. Exams, how some lecturers stressed everyone out, minor worries about next semester. He listened the whole time, eyes tracking mine, nodding gently at the right moments, letting me fill the silences. I found myself saying things I hadn't told anyone, not even my closest friends, and it didn't feel dangerous at all. His calm attention made it feel safe, even when my chest tightened at the closeness. Occasionally, our knees brushed under the table, or our shoulders lightly touched as we shifted, and neither of us moved away. Those touches were tiny, but they added up to a quiet awareness I couldn't ignore. At one point, he shifted slightly, and suddenly we were sitting closer than before. Our knees nearly touched, and it felt normal, natural even, but my body hummed with awareness. Then he leaned in just enough for a brief, gentle hug. Nothing lingering, nothing demanding. I noticed the warmth of his arms against mine, how his hand rested lightly on the back of the sofa near me. Careful, patient, like he was making space for me to choose how close we got. I realized I could get used to this. I could feel comfort here without fear, if only for a few minutes. My heartbeat was loud in my own ears, reminding me I was alive and aware. We let the conversation fade again. There was no rush to fill the quiet. I caught his glance once, then again. Subtle but steady. We shared small smiles, our hands brushed briefly on the sofa armrest. I inhaled, noticing the soft rustle of our clothing, the faint scent of cologne, the weight of him near me. It mattered. Not in a storybook way, not in a dramatic twist way, but it mattered. My chest told me it mattered more than I expected, and yet I was still in control. I was here, and I had chosen to be here. Eventually, the moment began to slow, naturally retreating. He asked quietly if I wanted to head back, phrased as a question, soft, patient. I nodded reluctantly because I didn't want it to end, but I also understood that quiet could be enough for now. As we rose, our hands brushed again, unplanned, brief, a silent acknowledgement of what had just happened. I felt the warmth linger as we moved back toward the main area, aware of the shift inside me. Something had changed, irreversibly, even if nothing was said. I carried that quiet attachment with me, a soft ache mingled with warmth, knowing the next steps would matter. I left the sofa slowly, but for a moment I stayed seated, letting the quiet stretch between us. Thabo didn't say anything, and neither did I, but the silence felt full, like it was holding everything we hadn't said. My knees brushed his as I shifted slightly. My hand lingered near the armrest where his had been. I noticed the faint scent of his cologne again. Subtle. Cuddle. Calm. I realized I was paying attention to everything, how he moved just a little closer without pressing, how careful he was with space, with proximity. He doesn't push. He waits. That matters more than I realized. It was strange to feel this thrill without drama, just quiet awareness. As we got ready to leave, my mind kept replaying small moments, how he remembered I liked my drink sweet, the way he listened without distraction, how he smiled when I laughed properly, not the polite kind I normally use. I didn't expect to feel noticed like that. Really noticed. And yet here I was, smiling inwardly at memory after memory. This doesn't happen to me. I didn't expect it, and yet it feels easy. I told myself, trying to figure out why my chest felt both heavy and light at the same time. The goodbye was soft. A brush of hands that lingered a heartbeat longer than necessary. Eye contact held just long enough for me to feel it. Feel him. Without a single word. No promises. No explanations. Just presence. I felt that familiar twinge of unease mixed with comfort. My body remembered the warmth of his hug, the soft brush of our knees, the careful way he had given me space but stayed near. I wasn't confused. I was aware. And aware mattered. The walk back through campus felt different. The Boda Boda was noisy, the streets familiar. My dorm room smelled the same, but everything felt charged now. I could see my books and desk and assignments unchanged, but I felt changed. Everything's unchanged, but I am. I realized, stepping over the familiar threshold of my room, with a quiet awareness humming through me. I sat on my bed for a while, phone face down on the desk, resisting the urge to message him. I reorganized my notes, checked assignments, tried to anchor myself in ordinary life, but my mind kept slipping back to him. to the gestures, the touches, the way he had waited, the way I had chosen. I can feel it stirring. But I still choose to hold it. I thought quietly, offering a small prayer not for answers, just for calm. I had crossed a line I hadn't even intended to, and yet it felt like my choice every step of the way. When I finally lay down, the room was still. Familiar. Slightly comforting. But my thoughts echoed the earlier moments, like soft music looping. I didn't ask anything. I chose not to. That's still a choice, right? I whispered to myself in the dark. I realized the memory was permanent, even if the physical encounter had been brief. It mattered. It lingered. The line was crossed, and boundaries were intact, but I knew I wouldn't be the same tonight, or maybe even tomorrow. Something had started, something irreversible.